our topic? Oh,
Okay.
She'll say.
I want to tell
Welcome to Bite Size Bickering. My name is Gabe.
I'm Jackson.
You're Jackson?
You're
Oh.
Jackson.
I'm Jackson. Who are
I'm
you?
Liam.
Oh, okay, you're Liam.
I'm Marina.
You're Gabe. I don't know what you're talking about.
Well,
That's Gabe.
this has
Okay.
derailed fast. Anyway, before we start, Marina, what's the fucking joke you wanted to talk about last week that you didn't talk about?
Oh, okay. So I don't know how to. I always pronounce his name wrong. Schrodinger.
Schrodinger?
It's in the one with the cat,
Schrodinger.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Schrodinger.
I think I
Okay.
know this joke.
So Schrodinger. He's driving his car down the highway and he's speeding,
Oh, I know this
and
one.
he gets pulled over by a cop. And then the cop comes out, knocks on his window, is like, "Hey, I'm sorry, I have to investigate your car for some reason." So he's like, "Okay." So the cop goes, investigates the car, comes back, and he's like, "Hey, did you know there's a dead cat in the back of in the trunk?" And then he just goes, "Well, now I do." He's really mad at
Oh,
the
it's such a good joke.
that
I've
is a
heard
really
the
good joke.
version of that where it's Schrodinger and Heisenberg, and so the police officer says, "Hey, do you know how fast you're going?" And Heisenberg says, "No, but I can tell you where I was." Because physics.
There are some very
Oh.
confused people listening to those
All
podcasts
right,
right
now,
now.
now we're gonna do the actual topic
All right, what do we
instead of
talk about,
continue.
Gabe?
We're talking about Marvel or DC. What are people's opinions? Marvel, of course.
So my grandpa used to always tell this joke. And
Fuck
Kidding.
off.
Kidding.
All right, so I have. I think it really kind of depends on what we're talking about here, because Marvel, I think, has put out more good superhero movies, but I think DC has the best superhero movies. Like, in my mind, I don't think any Marvel movie touches Dark Knight.
Oh yeah, Gabe hasn't seen Dark Knight.
You should see Dark Knight.
I fall asleep every time I try to watch it
You want to know how I got these scars?
Gabe is an interesting
because I
person
fell asleep during
because
the Dark
Yeah.
Knight.
he does not have like
Taste?
yes. Gabe doesn't like Mad Max, by the way. Just to start
I
that
do not like
that
Mad Max.
thread in the
Really?
comment section.
Fury Road. I haven't seen the originals. I feel like I
Neither
might
have I.
like the originals.
So Gabe doesn't seem to like comic book things that he doesn't like the source material to. I have no better way of putting that. But he just
I like Batman source material because Killing Joke is one of my favorite comic books.
I don't know, man. I don't know with you.
I like, and it's not. I don't have a problem with the Dark Knight. I just can't seem to stay awake during the movie.
It's a weird problem to have.
Like it's just a weirdly specific problem to have where I always fall asleep during that movie. And at this point, like, I know what happens. Like, I've seen scenes with like Heath Ledger's Joker, and I get why people like it. Like, so I have no problem with the Dark Knight trilogy.
All right,
Like,
so
and what-
back to where we stand. Who are you? Marvel? You're Marvel, right, Gabe?
I'm Marvel.
Gabe's Marvel.
One of
Where are
my
you?
favorite movies is probably Civil War.
Civil War is pretty good. I have to say, I think I'm Marvel too, but I don't.
I mean, if
I
don't
think
really-
I'm
if you
more,
think it constitutes enough, like say
Like, I
I'm
think-
DC because of the
Yeah,
Christopher
I don't know.
Nolan.
I'm more Marvel because of the current state of things. So I've been like Marvel, DC, Marvel, DC. When I was younger, I was definitely more Marvel because I fucking love Spider-Man.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then like
The Sam Raimi Spider-Man series was.
I got more
I-
into like
well, besides
Batman
3.
because he had some darker concepts and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
good
and then
for
I
an
kinda-
angsty middle school.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
exactly.
For sure.
Yeah.
And so I've switched back and forth, but now I'm totally Marvel because DC movies suck.
Yeah, no, I think DC.
the Henry
has had
Cavill
a-
shit CGI.
Yeah, the Man of Steel I thought was not good, and I haven't seen a DC movie since then.
I watched Man of Steel with my friends Eric and Caitlin, and we watched it like on my porch, like at night once, because I was like, I haven't seen Man of Steel yet, and they're like, oh, well, they're like, we haven't either, so let's watch it, and we watched it, and Eric stopped watching the movie and just watched my face change into like what he defines as the most horrifying scowl that has ever come upon my face, because I just went.
I didn't think it was that bad, honestly. Like it wasn't like a fantastic movie or anything. It definitely could have been better.
Henry
but, like,
Cavill's Superman just pisses me off
I
to
know.
no
See,
end.
I
I
know.
think-
That is why I don't like that fucking movie. It's because I don't like emo Superman.
But here's the thing, though. Like, how do you... I think this is something that... I know in the 40s, when Superman, they kept just adding shit he could do, and the comics, like, the more shit they added, the less people
Yeah, because he
bought the
used to only be
comics.
able to leap.
Because, well, no, they had made Superman so unbelievably powerful that no one was interested in him because
Right.
I think the whole point of a movie is to
Do you know what his original superpowers are? Because I do.
them more like it was just like I don't think for a while I don't think kryptonite was a thing. I think they added that because they were like
They
"We need
added
to
it
give
because
this
he was
guy
too
a
powerful. So
weakness."
his original powers were mildly bulletproof, like a
Mildly.
hand, so like a pistol, like he could withstand, but he couldn't withstand a machine gun or a shotgun. He could leap, he couldn't fly, and he was super strong to a point. And then he had heat vision, not laser vision. And then they added the cold breath, and then they just ramped up everything else.
Yeah, and I think that the problem you run into if you're DC is you got to create like an actual hero with actual flaws and actual conflict, but you've got Superman to work with, and so you try to make Man of Steel, and that's kind of a losing movie to make.
So
in the first place.
what's good about Superman is like he has wars of ideals because I think the best way to describe it is in the most recent season of Luke Cage, they talk about how he has to control his anger more than anyone else because when he gets too angry, people might die if he does the wrong thing because he has super strength.
There's a great line in I think the Justice League when he's fighting Doomsday, and the city's been evacuated.
Is it the cartoon, the
cartoon.
animated one? Yeah, the animated one.
That's nice shit.
DC, I think has really good TV
They have the
shows.
best
like
animated
like
stuff.
They have
Young
the-
Justice, super fucking.
Oh,
good.
like
Oh, I love that
the
show.
DC animated universe where Superman and Wonder Woman are dating right now.
I
like that. That's
keep up
fucking
with
top. Like, have you seen Justice League Dark?
it. No.
It's so good.
But so I think the thing he said was like, I feel like I live in a city made of cardboard, and now I can finally let loose. And I was like, oh, there's some stuff to Superman right there. Like
Yeah.
I thought that was really interesting.
Well, so something I like about so like the Injustice comics, I think like Superman makes a better supervillain, like almost because it's like he's so powerful. How the fuck do you deal with it? That's generally what happens with supervillains. Is it's like, oh, this person has their new gimmick. How do I work around the gimmick? So Superman, like, I feel like he makes a better supervillain, and I feel like an Injustice movie would be way better than a Superman movie.
It's also Injustice is a really cool storyline. Like
So the thing that sets him off is Lois Lane dies, right?
Yeah.
Joker uses a poison on him that tricks Superman into thinking that Lois Lane is Doomsday while she's pregnant. So not only does she die,
Oh.
Superman annihilates her into oblivion essentially. And like, because he takes her and throws her into space.
Well,
Yeah.
and then he justifiably goes off the deep end.
Yeah,
after that.
exactly. So
That's interesting. Like I don't know the storyline, but it would be interesting if it's like his mad quest for vengeance and he just stops.
No,
caring about
he
anything.
forms like he kills the Joker, and then says villainy needs to be dealt with in a more permanent matter, in a more permanent way. So every supervillain and hero has the chance to join him, or he will kill them, like under his rule, because he's like, I have the power to rule, so I'm going to do it. So he forms like I think it's called the Legion, is the
Yeah.
group he forms,
I'm pretty sure.
which I'm sure is based off the Legion of Doom, but like.
So here's something that I'm realizing that I like more about DC Comics, is like the storylines. I feel like I can talk about them more. Like,
DC.
honestly.
So what I've always said is, what DC does well is individual storylines.
Right.
Is they don't necessarily. I think the best in my opinion, the best like combined storyline across multiple heroes comic books that they've had was the Blackest Night, which revolves around all these like there being more than one type of lantern color. And one of them is the Black Lanterns, and what Black Lanterns do is they resurrect the dead. And so they resurrect dead superheroes and villains, and like people have to deal with the consequences of those actions.
Interesting.
And so I think that's the best like crossover storyline I've seen. But like overall, like they have way better like individual storylines. Like when Batman was like presumed dead but lost in time, and like Dick Grayson had to take over the title of Batman, while Damien Dark, not Damien Dark, Damien Dark is from the
Damian
DC.
Wayne? Is that who
Damian Wayne,
Yeah.
yeah, Damian Wayne, had to be Robin.
Well, something I love about DC also is like they do what if really well.
Yeah, Marvel doesn't really have a lot of that.
Yeah, no.
My favorite
and
What
they have
If-
multiple universes. They're like
One of my favorite what if ones is Bruce Wayne was never born, and Clark Kent landed in Wayne Manor. So he was Bruce Wayne. And when his parents died, so like that's the whole thing happens, but it's Kal-El is Bruce Wayne
Yeah.
instead of Clark Kent. And so what happens is like he does the whole like becoming a news reporter, rejects the Wayne fortune kind of thing. But only because his parents die in front of him, and then he becomes Batman, but with Superman's powers. But the problem is, people do not like it because Batman is like he's dark, he's gritty, like he's he's the Dark Knight, like he's the necessary evil is like the point of Batman. But with like all that power, people are fear him more than they look at him. So the whole story is about him. Like he finds he's Batman, and then he has this relationship with Lois Lane. And then she explains to him, she's just like, you can't be Batman because Batman's too dark of a symbol. You need to be like a symbol of justice. So it's him going from Batman, becoming Superman instead.
I can see why people wouldn't like that.
People like it, actually. It's a really well-written story.
Huh.
Because, like, it doesn't really have to do with, like, his villains or whatnot, because he can just handle... It's like It's Superman with Batman's villains, and he just handles them too easily, right? But he still does,
Yeah, no, I saw that.
it's
It's a Japanese anime called One Punch Man.
Yeah. Oh my god, that is so good.
100 sit-ups. 100 squats.
But no, they do a lot of, like, interesting storylines like that. And
It's basically this sounds like all those episodes of Robot Chicken where Batman's fighting Bane and then Superman just comes up and breaks Bane's back and then walks off.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing that DC is, I think DC tries to ask moral questions with some of their superheroes. I think Batman and Superman especially.
well, that's what makes The Killing Joke so good.
Yeah, oh god,
As,
Killing
like-
Joke is like...
Oh, those final panels where
I
you...
haven't actually read it, but just the premise of, like, one bad day is enough to push anyone over the
Oh,
edge.
it's so
like,
good. The animated version was actually a little
I
disappointing
haven't
compared to
seen
the comic.
I haven't seen the film either.
It's disappointing. Part of the reason it being is that what makes The Killing Joke so great is the final panels are Joker and Batman laughing together, and then just like a panel that shows water, one that says snap, because Joker says, "When you beat me, like I'll always come back and we'll play the game again. But when I beat you, the game is over. Like when I finally beat you, because I will kill you." And they just laugh about it, and then there's a snap, and then you see Batman's face. Like you see the snap noise, and you see Batman's face, and you don't know if he killed the Joker or not.
Nice.
And like that's
You-
what.
Spoilers, by the way.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, at the end of the thing. But
Normally we do spoiler hands, but fuck you. Killing Joke's been out for a long time.
But I think that's an interesting thing because Marvel, you think about any Marvel movie that you've seen recently, even Infinity War, which I think is hounded as like the best Marvel movie ever.
Yeah, I think so.
I
It's one of the
honestly-
best like integrated storylines, which is why I
See,
say like
didn't actually really like it that much, but that's a different topic.
not
it
not the
doesn't-
movie. Like
it
I
does-
understand the movie
It
why you
doesn't
wouldn't like the movie.
have the same, like, at least talking Marvel versus DC, there was no real, like, people talk about the kind of moral philosophy of the Infinity War of being like, we don't trade lives, being the moral grounding of the whole film, but I feel like it just doesn't have nearly the same either punch or just relatability as the Dark Knight kind of Batman versus Joker, because I think the thing that makes the Joker such a great villain is he's not actually that crazy. Like,
Yeah.
he's insane.
Have you
but
heard the
he's-
super sanity theory?
Oh, what? It's just that, like, people who go over the edge actually see reality for what it is.
It's that Joker is so sane that he knows he's a fictional character, and so everything he does because he knows it doesn't have actual consequence.
That's some pretty shitty philosophy right there. That's the same as the simulation argument.
Well, the
But-
main argument is that like there was I guess most people who go through like if you read comics and you know about the Lazarus Pit,
Yeah.
most people who go through the Lazarus Pit end up insane immediately afterwards, and the Joker, like, he goes through it and he ends up normal and regretting everything before, like, reverting back to normal Joker. And there's, like, other hints, too, because he breaks the fourth wall a couple times every once in a while. Like, there's a crossover. There was one crossover comic he had with Spider-Man where he fought him. Like, Marvel and DC did a crossover comic. And then there was another, like, crossover series that created the Amalgamated Universe. Which is actually, like, decent comics. I understand why people don't like them, though, and I'll explain those in another time, maybe. But where he references the old crossover. So, like, just shit like that where he's aware he's a comic book character and that nothing he does matters. Well, Batman, like, part of the theory is that Batman might also be aware he's a comic book character, which is why he's, like, so prepared for everything, but he believes it doesn't matter. Things still matter, and that's why they're the two sides of the opposite.
Yeah, I mean, the Joker is, in some respects, the absolute nihilist. It's nihilism taken to its logical extreme.
Yeah.
And that is something that I just do not think Marvel touches. Like, with anything. Because, I mean, even Thanos, his motivation is, like, kind of ridiculous. Because if you can snap your fingers and kill half of all people, can't you snap your fingers and make just a little more food?
Right.
Like, it's like Thanos is some insane version of Malthus, and Malthus was an economist in, like, the 1500s who didn't really do all that much.
Yeah.
All right, our timer's up, but I think this was a good. I think this was a good one. I think we talked on a lot of stuff. All right, Marina, any opinions? Marvel or DC?
No.
Marvel or DC? You gotta pick one.
You haven't said anything the whole podcast. You have to end it.
What? No, I started in the beginning.
Oh yeah, we did. We did force her to talk about her joke.
All right, yeah, but Marvel or DC?
Marvel or DC?
Marvel or DC?
What's another comic book company?
Shut the fuck up.
Dark Horse.
Let her answer
Dark
the
Horse,
question.
just
Let her
say
answer the
Dark
question.
Dark Horse made Hellboy, right?
Sure.
I
I don't know.
think so.
I don't actually know.
Dark Horse is pretty good. Anyway,
Okay, let's start a comic book, guys, and that'll be your favorite.
all right.
It's gonna be called Bite-Sized Bickering.
And there's also
Comic book.
Archie Comics, inspiration for Riverdale.
Farsight.
Anyway,
Oh my God, I
God.
could kill you.
End it. End the podcast.
on to the next topic.